There's a powder sitting on the shelf of every pharmacy and grocery store in this country that restores a dead car battery to full capacity overnight. It costs less than $1 per treatment. It has been documented in electrochemistry research since the early 1900s, and it reverses the exact chemical process that battery manufacturers engineered your battery to die from on a predictable schedule. No mechanic, no jump start. No $200 replacement at the auto parts counter while a teenager installs it in the parking lot and throws your old one into a recycling bin the company resells for profit. Just powder, distilled water, and 12 hours of sitting in your garage. The compound is magnesium sulfate. You know it as Epsom salt? The same bag your grandmother soaked her feet in after church on Sunday. That $4 bag from the pharmacy aisle contains enough material to restore 8 to 10 dead car batteries from what the industry calls end of life back to near factory performance. And the automotive battery industry has known this since at least 1974. They did not stop publishing this information because the chemistry changed. They stopped because the business model required your battery to die on schedule. Powder that resurrects a dead battery for less than $1 cannot generate a $200 replacement sale. And what cannot generate a replacement sale cannot sustain a $13 billion battery market. They buried this compound the same year they sealed the battery shut and told you it was maintenance-free. This is the story of the $1 powder that restores what Big Battery engineered to fail. And the industry that panicked when the internet started remembering what they spent 50 years making you forget. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If these investigations matter to you, subscribe and hit the bell. This is where we crack open the vaults the industry welded shut. Now let me take you back to 1859. A French physicist named Aston Plant was working in a small laboratory in Paris when he assembled the first rechargeable battery in human history. He took 2 sheets of pure lead, separated them with strips of rubber, rolled them into a tight spiral, and submerged the entire assembly in a glass jar filled with diluted sulfuric acid. When he applied an electrical current to charge the lead plates and then disconnected the source, the jar held the charge and released it back on demand. The lead-acid battery. The same fundamental chemistry that starts your car engine this morning was invented in a Parisian laboratory 167 years ago. And in all that time, the core failure mechanism has never changed. Not once. Here's what happens inside every lead-acid battery on the planet from the moment it leaves the factory. When your battery discharges, a chemical reaction occurs between the lead plates and the sulfuric acid electrolyte. Lead reacts with sulfate ions in the acid to form a compound called lead sulfate, which deposits as a soft white crystal layer on the surface of both the positive and negative plates. Under normal conditions, recharging the battery reverses this reaction. The electrical current breaks the lead sulfate back into lead and sulfuric acid, restoring both the plates and the electrolyte to their original state. That is the cycle. Discharge forms lead sulfate crystals. Recharging dissolves them. Back and forth thousands of times over the life of the battery. But the cycle is never perfectly efficient. Every single discharge leaves behind a small percentage of lead sulfate crystals that the recharge cycle cannot fully dissolve. These leftover crystals harden over time, bonding permanently to the plate surface in a process electrochemists call sulfation. Month after month, the sulfation layer thickens. The hardened crystals block the active lead surface from contacting the electrolyte. Less lead surface means less chemical reaction. Less chemical reaction means less electrical output. Your battery slowly loses its ability to hold and deliver a charge. It's not because the lead plates wore out. Not because the case cracked. Not because anything inside the battery physically broke. It died because a layer of crystallized lead sulfate built up on the plates like plaque building on a tooth, and nobody told you how to clean it off. The battery industry calls this normal aging. They print an expected lifespan of 3 to 5 years on the label and build the replacement cycle into their revenue projections before your battery ever leaves the warehouse shelf. But sulfation is not an irreversible death sentence. It is a chemical condition. And chemical conditions can be reversed with the right chemistry. That is where magnesium sulfate enters the story, and where the battery industry's 50-year silence begins. When you dissolve Epsom salt in warm distilled water and introduce that solution into the electrolyte cells of a sulfated lead-acid battery, a specific electrochemical reaction begins. The magnesium sulfate molecules interact with the hardened lead sulfate crystals on the plate surface. During the next charge cycle, the magnesium sulfate acts as a supplementary electrolyte that softens and helps dissolve the crystallized sulfation layer that the standard sulfuric acid alone could no longer penetrate. The crystals break down. Fresh lead surface is exposed to the electrolyte again. The chemical reaction area increases, and the battery's ability to accept, hold, and deliver charge is restored toward its original factory capacity. This is not fringe science. This is not a garage myth passed around internet forums by weekend hobbyists. A 1974 paper published in Electrochemistry Research documented the desulfation properties of sulfate compound additives in lead-acid battery systems. Military maintenance manuals from the same era included electrolyte additive procedures for extending battery service life in field conditions where replacement units were not available. The United States military was restoring dead batteries with magnesium sulfate additives, while telling American consumers that a dead battery belonged in the recycling bin. And the industry watched that knowledge sit in technical journals and field manuals for 50 years without ever once printing it on the side of the battery box. Before we go deeper, I need to stop and tell you something. Everything I just revealed about battery chemistry is only one chapter in a much larger book. I have spent months compiling every technique and every method that corporations across multiple industries have deliberately buried. All of it lives inside the Forbidden Camping Vault. The complete vehicle maintenance blueprint that eliminates the 4 most expensive shop visits the average car owner faces, the headlight restoration formula that costs $1 and delivers $300 of body shop results, the engine light diagnostic protocol that exposes the $2,000 misdiagnosis the repair industry depends on, the full off-grid blueprint for cutting your dependence on the companies that bleed you dry every month, the 72-hour blackout checklist, the Forbidden Firecraft Manual, food preservation methods that keep meat edible for months without electricity, plus water heater flush protocols, rust removal formulas, and over 10 additional guides in one vault. The link is in the description, and there is a QR code on your screen right now. Go open the vault before we continue. Do not close this video. Stay with me. We are barely past the surface. Now stay with me, because the financial story behind your dead battery is the part that should make you put down your phone and walk to the garage. Let me show you exactly how the money flows. The automotive lead-acid battery market in the United States alone exceeds $13 billion in annual revenue. That number includes original equipment batteries installed at the factory, replacement batteries sold at retail, and the commercial fleet and industrial sectors that cycle through thousands of units per year. The average car battery costs between $150 and $250 at retail, depending on brand, cold cranking amps, and reserve capacity. The average American household replaces a car battery every 3 to 4 years. It's over a 30-year driving life. That is 8 to 10 battery replacements per vehicle. For a 2-car household, the lifetime battery replacement cost lands between $2,400 and $5,000. And every single dollar of that figure depends on one condition that the entire industry is structured around protecting. Your battery must die on schedule, every 3 to 5 years without exception, without delay, and without any intervention from the owner that might extend that timeline. A battery that can be restored for less than $1 instead of replaced for $200 is not a product improvement. It is a revenue catastrophe. Now here is the engineering decision that made the entire scheme possible. Before 1974, the majority of car batteries sold in America were serviceable. They had removable caps on each cell that allowed the vehicle owner to inspect the electrolyte level, add distilled water when it dropped below the plates, and maintain the internal chemistry of the battery throughout its operating life. A driver who maintained their battery's electrolyte levels could keep a lead-acid battery functional for 7 to 10 years or longer. Then the battery industry introduced the sealed maintenance-free battery. The official marketing pitch was convenience. No more checking water levels. No more handling acid. Just install and forget. But what they engineered was something far more profitable than convenience. They sealed the cells shut. They removed your access to the electrolyte. They eliminated the one maintenance step that extended battery life beyond the replacement cycle. They called it an upgrade. A sealed battery cannot be inspected. Sealed battery cannot be topped off with distilled water when the electrolyte drops below the plate surface and accelerates sulfation. And a sealed battery cannot be treated with a desulfation additive. By a consumer who understands what is actually killing the cells inside, the seal is not a feature, it is a lock. And it was installed to keep you out of a battery that you paid for and that sits inside a vehicle that you own. That single design decision, sealing the cells, is worth billions of dollars per year in accelerated replacement revenue. If you have made it this far, you already understand more about what is happening under your hood than 99% of drivers in this country. Subscribe and share this with someone who just spent $200 on a battery they might not have needed. Everything the battery industry buried is inside the complete vault. The link is in the description. Now stay with me, because this next section is where I hand you the procedure they spent 50 years keeping out of your hands. Here is exactly what to do, step by step. First, you need to determine whether your battery is a sealed unit or a serviceable unit with removable cell caps. Look at the top of the battery. If you see 6 small round caps or 3 rectangular caps arranged in a row across the top, your battery is serviceable, and this process is straightforward. If the top is completely smooth and sealed with no removable caps, you can still access the cells. Use a flathead screwdriver to carefully pry up the sealed cap strip along the top of the battery. On most sealed batteries, this strip is press-fitted, not permanently welded. It lifts off with firm, even pressure, exposing the 6 individual cell ports underneath. The industry does not advertise this because the entire maintenance-free marketing strategy depends on you believing those cells are permanently inaccessible. They are not. Step 2. Put on safety glasses and rubber gloves because you are working with sulfuric acid, electrolyte, and lead components. This is not optional. Battery acid burns skin on. Contact and the vapors irritate your lungs in enclosed spaces. Work in a ventilated garage with the door open. Step 3. Use a flashlight to look inside each of the 6 cells. You are checking electrolyte levels. The liquid should cover the lead plates completely. If any cell shows plates exposed above the liquid line, that cell has lost water through evaporation, and the exposed plate surface has sulfated aggressively. Step 4. Prepare the Epsom salt solution. Dissolve 7 to 8 tablespoons of pure magnesium sulfate in approximately 1 quart of warm distilled water, not tap water. Distilled water only because the minerals in tap water will contaminate the electrolyte chemistry and accelerate plate degradation. Stir until the Epsom salt is completely dissolved and the solution is clear. Step 5. Using a plastic funnel and a turkey baster or syringe, carefully add the Epsom salt solution into each cell, filling until the electrolyte level sits approximately 1/4 inch above the top of the lead plates. Do not overfill. Excess electrolyte will overflow during charging and create an acid mess on the battery top that corrodes the terminals. Step 6. Replace the cell caps or press the seal strip back into position. Step 7. Connect a standard trickle charger or a smart battery charger to the battery terminals. Set it to a low amp slow charge rate, typically 2 amps, and let the battery charge for 24 to 36 hours. This extended slow charge is critical because it gives the magnesium sulfate solution time to work on the hardened sulfation crystals while the charging current provides the electrical energy needed to drive the desulfation reaction. Fast high-amp charge will not achieve the same result. Step 8. After the slow charge cycle completes, disconnect the charger and let the battery rest for 2 hours. Then test the voltage with a basic multimeter. A healthy 12-volt car battery should read between 12.6 and 12.8 volts at rest with no load connected. If your battery reads 12.4 volts or above after the treatment, it has recovered significant capacity and is ready for service. If it reads below 12.2 volts, repeat the treatment with a fresh Epsom salt solution and another 24-hour slow charge cycle. Heavily sulfated batteries that have been sitting dead for months may require 2 or 3 treatment cycles to fully recover. Step 9. Reinstall the battery in your vehicle and drive normally. Monitor your starting performance over the next week. Successfully desulfated battery will crank the engine with noticeably more speed and authority than it did before treatment. Because the restored plate surface area delivers higher current output than the sulfated plates could manage. Now I need to be completely honest with you about limitations, because that honesty is what separates this channel from the industry that profits from your confusion. This procedure works on batteries that died from sulfation, which is the most common cause of lead-acid battery failure by a wide margin. It does not work on a battery with a physically shorted cell. A cracked case, leaking acid onto your garage floor, or plates that have been warped and buckled from extreme overcharging or deep discharge abuse. If your battery died because you left the headlights on for a week and discharged it to absolute zero, the deep discharge may have caused irreversible plate damage that no additive can reverse. But if your battery simply lost cranking power gradually over 2 to 3 years and finally stopped holding enough charge to start the engine, on a cold morning, sulfation is almost certainly the cause. And sulfation is exactly what this treatment was designed to reverse. The battery sitting in your engine bay right now did not die because lead-acid technology is inherently fragile. Lead-acid batteries are one of the most robust and longest-lasting electrochemical systems ever designed when properly maintained. Gaston Plante's original 1859 design principle still works. The battery died because the maintenance access was sealed shut, and the one chemical treatment could have reversed the degradation was buried in technical journals, in military manuals that no consumer was ever meant to read. A $4 bag of Epsom salt from the pharmacy contains enough magnesium sulfate to restore 8 to 10 batteries. That is roughly 40 cents per battery. 40 cents versus $200 at the auto parts counter. 40 cents versus the $13 billion replacement cycle that the entire battery industry is engineered around. You cannot patent Epsom salt. It is a naturally occurring mineral compound mined from evaporated seabeds. You cannot create a proprietary formulation around a substance sold in the bath and body aisle of every drugstore in America. You cannot build a recurring revenue model on a treatment the customer performs once every 3 years for less than the cost of a pack of gum. The entire economic architecture of the battery replacement industry requires one condition. You must believe that a dead battery is a dead battery. That belief is worth $13 billion a year, and it dies the moment you open those cells and pour in what they spent 50 years telling you did not exist. This knowledge did not disappear because the chemistry stopped working. It was never given to you because a customer who restores batteries does not buy new ones. Go to your garage tonight, put your hand on that battery, and understand that what is killing it from the inside is a reversible chemical condition, not a permanent mechanical failure. And when that $4 bag of powder brings it back to life overnight, send this video to every driver you know who is about to spend $200 on a problem that was solved before they were born. If this vault opened your eyes, subscribe and hit the bell. Every share preserves knowledge that the industry spent decades keeping locked away from the people who paid for it.